Thank you so much for joining us again for Reading 100 Classics. The book we're diving into today is none other than William Shakespeare's masterpiece, Hamlet. Now, on the surface, it's the story of a tragic prince, someone caught between hesitation and revenge, spiraling toward ruin. But here's the incredible part. As you follow his story, you start to see reflections of our own modern lives, our own struggles, mirrored in the anguish of these characters.
When you hear the name Hamlet, the word revenge probably pops into your head, right? But this play is so much more than a simple revenge story. It's a deep, profound exploration of one person's endless psychological conflict, his deep-seated torment, and the tragic downfall that results from it. What's truly mind-blowing is how a story written over 400 years ago can still feel like it's holding up a mirror to our own complicated lives today.
And that right there is the key question we're going to unpack together today. How can a story this old feel so incredibly fresh and relevant to us right now? Why does Hamlet's desperate psychological struggle feel like it's speaking directly to us across the centuries? Well, to find out, we have to go back to the very beginning of the tragedy.
Our story kicks off in the Kingdom of Denmark. The stage is set, and every piece is being carefully put in place for an absolute catastrophe. And what raises the curtain on this whole tragedy? A chilling, supernatural command.
Welcome to Elsinore Castle. On the surface, everything seems to be in order. The old king, Hamlet's father, has died, and his brother, Claudius, has stepped up to the throne, really quickly. But just beneath this thin veneer of stability, a truly ugly reality is festering. Claudius didn't just take his brother's crown. He also took his brother's wife, Hamlet's own mother, Gertrude. The entire court is just steeped in this moral numbness, this corruption, where a false mask is hiding a terrible truth.
To really get what's going on, you've got to meet the players. The court is like this tangled spiderweb of loyalty and betrayal. At the very center, you have Hamlet, who is drowning in grief over his father's death. His uncle, Claudius, is now both his king and his new stepfather. His mother, Gertrude, is now also his aunt. And then, of course, there's the ghost of the old king, who's the one to light the fuse for this whole tragedy. Also caught in this web are other key figures, like Hamlet's love, Ophelia, and her brother, Laertes. Trust me, every single one of these relationships is a ticking time bomb.
And then it happens. The ghost of King Hamlet appears and drops an absolute bombshell. He was murdered, poisoned in fact, by his own brother Claudius. The ghost demands revenge, but, and this is a huge but, it comes with two nearly impossible conditions. He says, "Taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught." Basically, get your revenge, but don't become a monster in the process, and leave your mother's judgment to God. This isn't just a mission. It's the start of a journey into a moral and psychological maze with no clear exit.
And it's at this exact point that we dive into the very heart of the play. Faced with this impossible task, Hamlet doesn't just spring into action. Oh no, he thinks, he doubts, he spirals endlessly into a labyrinth of his own anguish, completely torn between this burning desire for vengeance and a deep, paralyzing self-reflection that stops him in his tracks.
And this leads, of course, to arguably the most famous soliloquy in all of literature: to be or not to be. That is the question. This is so much more than just him thinking about suicide. It's a raw cry of his existential terror. Should he act and risk eternal damnation, or should he just keep suffering the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? Should he even exist in this corrupt world, or should he not? His entire struggle, all of his hesitation, is packed into this one single iconic line.
You know, a lot of people think Hamlet is just an indecisive person, but that's a common misunderstanding. He's actually a man of shocking extremes. On one hand, he has every reason and every opportunity to get revenge on Claudius, but he's paralyzed by thought, delaying endlessly. And yet, this is the exact same guy who, without a moment's hesitation, impulsively stabs Polonius through a curtain without even checking who's behind it. This paradox is the key to understanding him. He swings between profound inaction and sudden savage violence. He's a man of both extremes.
See, Hamlet is a genius, and he approaches this problem like one. Before he commits an irreversible act of violence, he needs absolute certainty. So he launches a psychological war. First, he pretends to be crazy. This acts as a shield, hiding his true intentions and letting him observe his enemies. Second, and this is brilliant, he uses a play within the play to force Claudius to watch a reenactment of his own crime. And finally, he gets his confirmation. Claudius's explosive, guilt-ridden reaction to the play proves the ghost was telling the truth, and Hamlet's thirst for revenge ignites like wildfire.
And now we enter the downward spiral. Hamlet's impulsive killing of Polonius wasn't just a mistake, it was the first domino to fall in a chain reaction that leads straight to ruin. And this is where we see the play's cruel, cold logic in action. Revenge only ever creates more revenge.
Let's watch how these tragic dominoes fall. It all starts with that one impulsive mistake, the death of Polonius. This single act drives his lover, Ophelia, into madness and ultimately to her tragic death by drowning. Her death, in turn, fuels the rage of her brother, Laertes, who comes storming back to Denmark to avenge his father and sister. And all of this culminates in a deadly duel engineered by Claudius, where the endless cycle of revenge finally, tragically consumes everyone.
And this is the play's core thesis on vengeance. Revenge isn't a solution. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of destruction. Every action taken in the name of revenge just creates a new avenger, a new grievance, and it just drags everyone deeper and deeper into that vortex of ruin.
So by the end, the stage is littered with bodies, the tragedy has reached its peak, and it might just seem like a grim record of destruction. But Shakespeare, being Shakespeare, leaves us with some of life's most profound wisdom buried within all this carnage.
Right before the final duel, we see a profoundly changed Hamlet. He's no longer the tortured soul we met at the beginning, paralyzed by overthinking and trying to control every single outcome. He has come to accept the uncertainty of fate, to understand that some things are simply beyond human control. His conclusion? Let be. It's this incredible moment of peace, earned through unimaginable suffering.
So in Hamlet, death is never just the end. It carries multiple layers of meaning. First, there's political death. This is the chaos and destruction that comes from defying the natural order of royal succession. Then you have the death of consciousness, Hamlet's own spiritual death as he rejects the corrupt reality by pretending to be mad. And finally, there's death as purification and restoration. Hamlet's own physical death is what finally cleanses the corrupt state of Denmark and makes way for a new order to begin.
So, what's the ultimate wisdom we can take away from Hamlet? Well, I think the play leaves us with three powerful lessons. First, the destructive, cyclical nature of revenge. Second, the deep, messy complexity of human morality, where even good intentions can lead to tragic outcomes. And finally, the profound courage it takes to face an uncertain world and simply say, let be. I want to leave you with this final thought. In the end, Hamlet succeeds in his revenge, doesn't he? He kills the king. But at what cost? His mother, his lover, her family, his friends, and ultimately himself. Was it really worth it? Maybe the real tragedy isn't whether he got his revenge, but the absolute, total devastation left in its wake.
We'll be back next time with another insightful classic. See you again soon. Bye!